All right, Big Blue Report. We are here. That guy over there, Jonathan Casillas, the two-time Super Bowl champion, defensive captain of the New York Football Giants, and of course, Big Daddy D, Ryan Darlington. There, he is ready to go to talk New York Giants football. And all right, we just talked about the Eagles game. That's over, and let's move on to the Redskins game or the Commander game.
Special all year.
JC, I don't want to say that things went wrong for the Giants this past Sunday against the Eagles. I know we discussed it last week, but just to show you how bad it was, it actually went wrong in the media room too, because they gave the media penny vodka. And I feel like when you want to write good stories, you want them to be happy. And the Giants have been undefeated with chicken fingers in the media room.
Oh.
I just want to let you know, you might have to call your friends there just to say, hey, listen, we're undefeated with chicken fingers. And this week you busted out the penny vodka. Was it last week against the Commanders? You busted out nachos, and it doesn't work, man. You got to stick with the game plan. Stick with the script.
Chicken fingers is what it is.
Chicken fingers is what it is, man.
I'll make some phone calls. I'm gonna get some people on the line.
Listen, I appreciate it. Listen, you thought me picking the other team was helpful? Get those damn chicken fingers in there. Shit's gonna get real. All right.
Well, let me be honest. I don't. If they were eating chicken fingers, chicken wings, they wasn't winning that game against the Eagles.
No,
I was going to say, it wasn't the receiving core. It wasn't the offensive line. It was the goddamn chicken fingers.
Look, the Giants played a more talented team, probably the most loaded team in the NFL right now, and their record shows it. Jalen Hurts is playing lights out. I don't think nobody questioned that. I don't think anybody really had the Giants actually, standing a chance against them. But what I didn't like, Randy, I didn't like how many mistakes they made. I think it was just a whole bunch of mistakes, missed tackles, and just giving these guys the game. And it's like they're already good enough. You don't have to commit all this extra stuff to make them win the game. It's like the Giants have a fighting chance in any game, even against the Eagles. But when you shoot yourself in the foot on a consistent basis, I would say a punt, but it wasn't even a punt. It was an illegal kick. That's what it got ruled. It got ruled an illegal kick. One of the worst plays I ever seen on special teams. I don't know what happened. I mean, it was kind of slick out there. It was kind of cold, but that set them back. The next play was a touchdown. And that was it. That was basically the end of the game for the Giants. And it was already out of control. I think it was already 21-0 at that point. So it was getting out of control. And what I liked and I talked about this earlier in the radio show with John Schmelk with Big Blue Kickoff Live. I like Daniel Jones, and I feel like Daniel Jones has improved. And when you look at a game like the Eagles, who trounced the Giants, I don't think Daniel Jones played horribly. I don't think he was the reason why they lost that game amongst all the reasons that they end up losing that game. And for him moving forward, especially this week, being against the team that you got to beat out for the playoffs. Let's be real. That's the team that's you facing on this side. You're going out of DC to go ahead and get that playoff spot against the Commanders, because if you don't, it's the Commanders' spot. So the Giants have to play well, and we was trying to ride Saquon early. I just don't think offensively that's what they want to truly do. But let's ride Daniel Jones, because at the end of the day, if you look at the whole offense collectively, you got to look at those two positions and say we have an advantage. That's where the Giants have an advantage, and that's in and week out. Maybe not against the Eagles, but definitely against the Commanders. And the Commanders are a very respectable opponent. They showed it a couple weeks ago. They've been on a tear. They've only tied in the last month, and they've won the other games. They won 6 out of 7? Or I guess that's 5 out of 7 now with the tie included, something like that. But they're a team that's trending up and the Giants are trending down. And I think it has to be on Daniel Jones' back, and it has to be on Saquon Jones' back as well. Saquon Barkley's back.
We just made a love child. I think you're absolutely right. Saquon's got. I think the bottom line against the Commanders is that everybody's got to step up, right? I mean, it would be great to put the team on Daniel's back, but does he have the supporting cast around him that will allow him to do that? The receivers got to play lights out. They've got to give him targets before he can hit them. The tight end's got to block right. The line's got to block right? I mean, all of the things, the creativity needs to come back. All of those things need to fire on all of the cylinders, given the fact that we are so depleted from a talent standpoint on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody's got to have their best game on Sunday. The one thing that I will say is that I think at this point, after that blowout loss and after the stuff that Hadi was talking after the game, I think they're ready to do that. I think they're pissed off enough. And the one thing that I'm seeing now that I haven't necessarily seen a lot of before is the fire. I'm pissed off and I'm looking to punch somebody in the mouth. And I wonder if that's it's going to set apart the team that goes forward from the team that came in.
I remember back in 2007, going into that 2008 Super Bowl, when the Giants played the Patriots on the last game of the season. And that was almost like that game that sort of woke up the New York Giants sitting there saying, hey, you know what? We can hang with the big boys. Like JC said, there were some moments there where you say there were some decent things from the Giants. I'm not talking about Julian Love went for the interception and missed it, and it turned into a touchdown. But I think the Giants looked at it and said, you know what? If we tinker this and we tinker this and we tinker this, we can hang with the Eagles. And you can make those adjustments. If you can hang with the Eagles, you sure as hell can hang with the Commanders. And I think that's the way you have to look at it. I think we on this show, we have talked about the receiving core, Daniel Jones and Saquon ad nauseum with that situation. It's now to the point this team needs to dig down, and this is the biggest must-win game, obviously, of their season. But this is Daniel Jones' biggest game of his career right here. This is where the spotlight's going to be on him to make sure he can lead his team to victory. Not Coach Dable, not the defense. Daniel has to make plays because guess what? Out of all the wins that Daniel's had in his career, he's had them against Washington. So he's had success against this team. So now this is Daniel's time to stand up and take charge and lead this team past Washington if they want a shot at the playoffs. And JC, one of the things that I really took away from Sunday was the fact that and even though the score was obviously at the end out of control, they didn't stop fighting. They still kept on playing. Yes, there were mistakes, but they did that. The effort didn't stop. And I think that's a lot different. Because someone asked me in the press box, have I ever seen a game like this? And I said the only other time I really felt like I've seen a really lopsided score was the Rams game back in 2017, when that was like a 50-point game. But the difference there is the guys kept on fighting. And not saying that you guys didn't fight, but I just felt like you saw Dable still trying to get his guys fired up and still try to compete. And I wanted to get your take on it.
Well, I mean, the whole I guess for the team, the whole theme for the last leading into maybe like the last 4 weeks or a month and some change was playing meaningful football in December. No one talked about the playoffs. And I think that's all Dayball. I think Dayball was like, look, we wanted to play meaningful football in December. December's here and we're doing that. Although they haven't won a game in December, they haven't won since I think November 13th, which is a long time ago.
Yeah,
that's a very long time ago to be winning to think about the last time the Giants won. But that's the idea, that's the culture, that's the identity that he wanted these guys to be having moving forward. And you have to be playing good football right now. And what I haven't seen from the Giants collectively, I've seen it from Daniel Jones, I've seen it from Dexter Lawrence, I've seen it from Azeez Ojulari, I've seen it from Kayvon Thibodeau. I've seen those guys improve, but as a collective team, they haven't improved. They're still making mistakes. Like that Julian Love play, that hurt. I think I told you that hurt my heart because he's such a great player for them.
Yeah.
A very underrated player, and you just expect him to make a play like that. And when you have one of your best defensive players basically blowing the play like that, like that's bad. That's really bad because you expect that from younger guys. I don't want to name the younger guys' names, but you expect that from a younger guy, not from Julian Love, who's proven that he's one of the better players in the New York Giants, a formidable safety, a guy that can play all over, can call a defense. He's done everything for them. What we haven't seen him do a lot is miss tackles and make basically bad plays. And everybody have to make plays. You know, all the playmakers have to show up. Our defensive line has to play better than their defensive line. And Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, those guys are monsters up front. You add in Montez Sweat and then now Chase Young, fresh legs. This is a very formidable front seven. It's going to cause problems for the offense, I think, the entire day. But this is the thing. Daniel Jones, I don't see him being rattled. You know,
No.
even in the
No,
big
he
game
hasn't.
against the Eagles and the big game against the Commanders, he might not played his best football. I don't see him rattled. I don't see him making terrible mistakes. I don't see him making terrible decisions. And that's why I'm like, yo, put your ball in Daniel Jones's hands. Get that RPO going where it's either Daniel has it, Saquon has it, Daniel has the option to pass it, then he also has the option. So it's like a quadruple option, really, because Daniel Jones, he's making good decisions when it comes in terms of getting that first down, not throwing a bad pass down the field, possibly an interception or a PBU, and he's tucking it. And a lot of times he's getting that first down. And that's what I feel like they need to do. I don't know if Kafka, as he starts to kind of reinvent the offense with these moving, parts on the offensive line. And then also, I think they figured out who their top two receivers are. And I think that's Hodgins and Slayton. And now you got Bellinger healthy. Now it's like, all right, where do we go offensively? Now that we got our guys to finish the season with, because I don't think they're going to add anybody else off the injury report for the Giants on the offense. Defensively, Adoree Jackson, of course, we want him playing. But is there anybody else offensively that they're going to add that's on the injury report right now?
No.
Nobody else. So these are the guys. These are the guys that you're going to finish your season with. There's no question about it. Let's solidify who's playing offensive line, where they're playing at, so you get some continuity, because that's the thing. It's been a revolving door at offensive line the whole entire year. So I see Saquon, he's not running the same. He's not running the same as he did in the beginning of the season, where he was pushing the power forward and would run into the back of offensive linemen. And I think that because he's doubting the offensive lineman in front of him. That's what I think I don't know if that's that, because I'm sitting there trying to figure out. He just looks different. I definitely don't think he's hurt. He's been practicing fully. They took him off the injury report. And I just hope that this week he just hits that switch like he did in the beginning of the year, because I feel like he turned that switch back on to like, I'm the best player on the field. And when I get my head going down, I'm the best, and I feel like he was doing that early in the season, and he just hasn't done that in the last few weeks.
It's a tough time of year to try to be developing consistency on the front five, right? Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to get your line to gel on December 19th, that's an issue, right?
Yeah,
December 18th.
100%. No, you're right.
So I don't think he's got the same confidence. I think your point is absolutely correct. I don't think he has the same confidence that he did. But I mean, he's still trying to hit the hole, but bodies just aren't getting moved, right? And I think once he's able to be willing to hit that hole as hard as he was at the beginning of the season, right? He might be able to make some holes on his own, or at least fall forward for a few yards instead of just kind of getting jammed up in the backfield. But it really is going to take the line to get their shit together. I mean, I think that's I was looking up some stats, and I mean, beyond just the run game, Daniel Jones has been sacked 41 times this year, behind one other person in the NFL whose name is Russell Wilson, and he's not had a stellar year, right? So I hate to break it into like, okay, this is a problem. Okay, this is the problem. Lack of continuity, lack of consistency, a lack of consistent play on that offensive line in rundowns and in pass downs throughout the course of this last 5 or 6 games, I think is a major issue that just will need to be addressed at some point.
Now, keeping in mind that it's also the Eagles and the way that defense is, Saquon carried the ball 9 times for only 28 yards.
Yeah.
So that, you're looking at
the game got out of control real fast.
Yeah, real quick.
Control really quick.
And I guess that's the other part that I wanted to make mention of is, every time there were signs of life, right? Yeah. There were times when we start, okay, so the first 2 drives we don't want to talk about, right? There's a couple of sacks in there, and it got off on the wrong foot. But even when it was 21-0, Randy, to your point, they were still fighting. They were able to get a touchdown. But as soon as they did, they got jammed up, and they made a stupid mistake, and it got turned around on them. Right? There was they'll have a pretty good drive, and then give up 66 yards on the special teams return.
I have to ask JC this: have you ever seen a play when the Eagles punt got blocked, caught by their guy,
and almost got the first down?
Almost got the first down. I was like, I'm like,
I thought he got it at first. I'm sitting there like, nah,
come on,
man,
come on, that's it.
I'm like,
that's it.
I'm like watching that. I even put out there. I put out there. I'm like, of course that happened.
Yeah,
the way that was going on right now. But like, the simple fact of the matter is that we saw a lot of things this week I never thought we'd see. But Ryan and I were just talking about this before we went on the air. Giants are playing with house money right now, man. If you would have told a Giant fan in the beginning of the season 7 wins, they would have been sign me up for that, man. Like,
and in the hunt for the playoffs.
In the hunt for the playoffs, right? Like, you had people in the beginning of the year saying the Giants might only win 3 games. Mm-hmm. I think Ryan and I were looking at each other saying 4 or 5.
I think we gave him 6. I think we gave him 6.
Yeah, I think we gave him 6. The 6
Yep.
in the beginning of the season. They're at 7, and they're having a game in December that's going to help signify what their playoff fate's going to be. Okay, we Giants fans should know at this point you're playing with house money. Again, JC has said it before. I'm going to keep emphasizing it. Don't tell the players that they're not playing for this year, because they want the opportunity to do it. But if you're a upcoming free agent and you're seeing that the culture that Dable and the rest of the Giants brass is putting out there, I would want to sign up for that. One thing that I guess I should bring up, even though it was absolute garbage time for it, Tyrod Taylor went 5 for 5 and got a touchdown as well. Not that should mean anything. No one is ever sitting there saying replace Daniel with Tyrod. But with everything that's been going on with Daniel and what's going on, and I know I said this question as well, is does Daniel want to be back? That's another question that we all have to really, we'll evaluate in a couple weeks. JC, you're a Giants fan. You should be happy right now, right? Like, not content, but you can be happy with what you've been seeing for the
not right now. Not this current day. We're talking about December 15th, 2022. If you'd asked me 2 months ago, I was so happy. Big smile on my face, walking around. And because the Giants were a winning team, I think they were an overachieving team. I think they won some games where they shouldn't have won, or possibly couldn't have won, but they figured out a way to win games. And that's what we haven't seen from them. They haven't figured out a way to win these games. They could have put the Commanders away 2 weeks ago. They didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. The Lions ran all through the Giants, up and down the stadium of MetLife Stadium, look, this is a crucial time right now. And Randy, everything you're saying, if they lose this game, I don't think they're so comfortable anymore. Look, I don't think the coaches are getting fired or anything like that. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, the Giants go over. That's basically, you went from having a winning record, and then all of a sudden you have a losing record at the end of the year. That's really bad. And that doesn't look good on the outside looking in. It doesn't. And Dayball can, we could talk about injuries all we want, but the team's been a fraction of itself since the beginning of the season, and they've played better football with even less at certain times of the year, so the Giants have to play well. They have to win this game. If they don't win this game, their season is over.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. The season is over. They need to win this game, and they need at least one more win to be a playoff team. They can't just beat the Commanders and lose. I don't think that's going to work. The way Detroit is playing right now, 2 weeks ago, I didn't have them in the playoff in the wild card picture. But you see how they're playing. They're playing good football right now. I think
they have winnable games.
They're favorite to win this weekend in New York against the Jets.
Yeah, and that's, I was literally just about to say that to you, is the Detroit Lions right now are I think you can make an argument that they're the hottest team in the NFC right now, because obviously besides the Eagles, but like as far as teams that started off slow and coming together, they have really turned it around. And if you look at their remaining schedule, check this out, boys. They have the Jets this weekend. They have the Panthers next weekend. They got the Bears, and then they close out with the Packers. Okay. If
Some
all
winnable
winnable games.
There's some winnable games in there.
Yeah, all winnable games for them. And the way they've been playing offensively, they can definitely beat all of those teams if their defense just stops them from scoring 28 points, because those guys can light the scoreboard up. They lit the Giants up.
Yeah.
I think the running back had 3 touchdowns on us, rushing touchdowns. It's bad. And that's another thing. The Giants have not slowed down anybody from running the football.
Nope.
Not anybody, not even the Houston Texans. When the Texans came in and the Giants beat the Texans handily, the Texans still ran the ball efficiently against the Giants. And that's been a problem all year. The number one thing when you talk about defense, when you walk into any defensive room, they always say the number one thing is always stop the run. So the Giants, maybe they've won games, but defensively they failed a lot. They allowed running backs to have over 5 yards a carry, right? And then last week, was it 250 rushing yards against the Eagles? Yep. And I think when you look at that number, of course it's the Eagles, but that number should never been that high. You know, like even the Eagles, yeah, they're good, but I don't think they're that good. When I say that good, I just think that the Giants have suffered in that area of football the entire year, even when they were 6-1. So this is a problem they haven't addressed. And when I say haven't addressed, I think they have guys in the middle and they trying to figure out who, you know, is going to play behind Dexter Lawrence and Leo Williams. They're trying to figure out who's those 2 guys back there. And then I won't say revolving door, but Xavier McKinney not being there, because that's the middle of the defense. He's the middle of the defense. He's a run fit guy. He might be playing free a lot, but the safeties playing run fits all the time. And that linebacker position, Jalen Smith has had his up and downs. I think Tate Crowder has been a big disappointment this year. And of course, he started the season hot, had some big plays. He is a playmaker. I think he just makes a lot of mistakes. I watch sometimes when he doesn't read pull, like just simple stuff that linebacker should normally do, and he hasn't done it. So he's been a disappointment basically all over. I think the defensive line has played well, but they need to dominate. They can't just play well. They don't have the guys behind them to just play well against teams. They have to dominate offensive linemen. They're the only group that's capable of kicking whoever's in front of them ass all game long. And I think they showed that at spurts, but they need to do it for the entire game. Dexter Lawrence need to be in that backfield, and I want to see Azeez Ojulari back there. I want to see Jahad Ward stuffing the run. Leo Williams, I want to see all of those guys making plays, because that's the culture of the Giants. A dominant defensive line, and a dominant defensive line late in the year, December and in January. And that's where we're at right now. And we need to see these guys step up.
Do we have the pieces for that? I mean, you can scheme all day.
Defensively, yes, on the defensive line.
On the line, sure.
Yeah,
on the line,
We're talking about them having to dominate an entire game, right? And sure, it's possible, right? But not probable. There are quick math, 6 or 7 other positions on the field that have to play better than they are in order to give that front line some confidence that they don't.
Some time too. They need time.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you're missing Xavier McKinney. You're missing Adoree Jackson. You're missing, I'm even going to throw his name out there, Aaron Robinson. You know, I mean, you're missing guys that should be there. The guys that were contributing early in the season when we were putting 6 and 7 DBs out there. We can't do that anymore. We just don't have the personnel.
Yeah,
and the guys that we are playing,
they got the tape too.
They got the tape. But the guys that we are playing, I mean, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. I don't want to speak ill of any of the players that we've got. They're trying their best. They're trying their hearts out. But when we're talking about the caliber of talent on the front 7 or the front, the first stringers in Philadelphia on the offensive side, they just can't match up with the second, third, and practice squad players that we've got running out in the defensive secondary. Right. I mean, I would love to sit here and say that, you know, Wink can use his entire defensive playbook. I would love to be here saying that, you know, he can be creative and run all sorts of crazy blitzes and all this kind of stuff. The guys that we're playing, no, he can't do that. We don't have the continuity. They don't have the understanding of the system, and they're just not seasoned enough to know what they really need to do in each situation. So you see people getting burned, and you see people doing, you know, just making bad reads or not getting to the quarterback when they need to. So listen, I mean, I have full faith in the system, but you also have to have full faith in the players that you've got. And we're running second and third stringers out there, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I like Wink. I like his schemes.
Yeah.
I don't have full faith in his system. And the reason why I say that is because I think he's used to real starters in the NFL playing on the back end. You know, like a lot of these guys for the Giants on the back end wouldn't be starters, but they are because of first and second string guys getting hurt, you know. And then you take Fabian Moreau, who at times, especially early in the season, that Seattle game, very competitive. And you had a big receiver out there. He was very competitive. He was very competitive. Last game, he was horrible.
Yeah, he was.
He was a liability. Yeah, the last 2 or 3 games, right? Last 2 or 3 games. He's making penalties. He's getting beat. He's getting beat like badly in coverage. The missed tackle. That was oh my gosh. And that's our starting corner.
Yeah.
Fabian Moreau is the starting corner for the New York Giants.
One of the better ones we've got.
And as of right now, he's a liability. You can't have a starting corner as a liability in the NFL. And then you look behind them, there's no depth there. So it's like the Giants been shorthanded for a long time. And now you got guys who, I think Moreau, he's a pillar in the Giants defense because he ain't going nowhere. They're not about to bench him. They're not about to not play him. They have to play him.
They have to play him.
You got guys who have to play who are not playing well, you know, and that's why I keep saying the defensive line, they're the biggest guys on the team, you know, besides the offensive linemen. They command a presence. A couple of those guys are very highly paid, you know, Leonard Williams being one of them. And there's really nobody behind them.
Right.
So it's like they have to dominate in order for the Giants to have success.
Yeah. No,
and are they capable of doing it? Yes. Is it probable, like you said? No, it's not. It's not at all. But it's a lot better than saying you want Fabian Moreau to match up against Terry McLaurin all game without no pressure up front. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I hear you, man.
We're asking a lot, but it's not unbearable. Like they can do it. I've seen spurts where Ojulari at times last week against the so-called best line in football, the Eagles, he was kicking their ass.
Yeah, sure.
He was working them boys.
Yep.
You know, so in Kayvon, I think he took the brace off. He looks a lot more explosive. He looks a lot better.
Yeah.
And then I'm telling you, when those guys in front start playing good and they getting off blocks and they start messing stuff up as a linebacker, you start feeling like, man, I can get downhill faster. I can close a lot faster. I get more like I feel like I get fired up watching them. So I just think it has a trickle down effect because everybody sees them in front from all the way back to where Julian Love plays at. To even where, like, you know, I guess Jihad, he's kind of like a DN kind of stand-up guy, to even where he's at. You see everybody in front of you, and if you see them kicking ass, then you like, man, I gotta join the kick-ass party.
Well, and not only that too, but if you remember, like what you just mentioned before, those Giant championship seasons against the Patriots, they had depth on that defensive line. They had, so if God forbid, if OC missed a game, you had the next man
Kiwi.
up. Yeah, you had Kiwi right there. Yeah, Kiwi's name slipped my head for a second, but but you had Kiwi right there. You know, if Tuck missed a game, it was just so deep. You know what I mean? And like you just said, right now the Giants are just not deep. And not only that, but with Kayvon and Leo and Dexter and Jihad, we haven't had that core group together this year because Leo's missed games, Kayvon's missed games.
Well, they all have. I mean, it seems like Sexy Dexy is really the only mainstay, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Hottie's been in, you know, but, you know, Kayvon was out for a little while. Aziz was out for a little while. Leonard's been out for a little while, you know. So it is hard to get that consistency. But you're right. I mean, JC, if there's going to be a chance for the Giants to hold them down a little bit, it's going to be because the defensive line pulled it together and had a dominant game up front.
I also have to bring up this point too with this weekend's game. It got flexed up to the night game, so there's a lot of interest. The Giants on national televised broadcasts, not the strongest as we know.
What?
I know this
Daniel
is shocking.
Jones hasn't won in prime time. He's like 0 for 9.
Yeah.
Let's stop with that.
Listen, we have to tell the truth here, Ryan. You know, I'm not gonna lie to the public.
I've had enough truth. All right.
Okay.
We know.
Yeah,
We know.
I don't
about
want
truth.
truth. I don't want truth. I want hope.
Just give me my fantasy, for God's sake.
I want
Come
hope.
on.
I want hope. So I have to ask this to JC, because I know now you're back around the building. I have to ask, because I've also been watching a lot of ESPN with the Eli Manning shorts that he does, and of course the Eli Manning show. First off, we got to get you on that show. Second of all, is Eli that funny of a guy like normally? Because when we were covering him, it was like I always said he was the type of guy who lets you on the patio, but he ain't letting you through the front door, if you know what I mean. So you played with him. Is he really this type of funny of a guy?
Honestly, I didn't know he was this funny and this like charismatic, and outgoing, and I saw him a couple weeks ago in the cafeteria, and he came up to me, gave me a big hug, and I smiled at him, and I was like, bro, that skit you did with Fabio, you and Sean O'Hara. Fabio is a New York rapper who is like killing the charts right now, and they love him. Anytime you outside, they playing Fabio, everybody loves him. So he's like one of the hottest rappers in New York, and Eli is in the rap video with him in his studio, like with a chain on, and I was just like, bro, this is the best. Like Eli's the man. But the only time that I experienced, I guess, a riff from him, he was kind of, I guess, joshing me or joking with me. I was in the tub. We was in the tubs. I was in the cold tub at the time. Oof. So I'm in the tub. I got like my phone in my hand like this. And, I'm like, not trying to get my elbows and trying to keep my chest out, because it's like another 20 degrees colder when you get your chest in there. So I'm out like this. And all of a sudden, water just splashes all on me. And there's a medicine ball that got thrown in the tub. And there was like, and I'm looking like, who the F did that? I'm hot. I'm pissed. My phone's wet. I got wet like from this cold water. I'm like, who the F did that? And I'm looking around. I don't see nobody. And I'm looking. It was Eli. I thought it was Eli Apple.
Yeah.
So my blood started boiling. I started like cursing Eli out.
Oh,
and then I look. It's Eli Manning is in the training room on all fours, eking around the corner like this. And I was looking, and I just was like, what? Like it just threw me off. First of all, I thought it was Eli Apple. Second off, I'm like, Archie's son? Like, hey, brother? Like, what? What you? Like, but that was like, for me, that was like, he was just, of course, he was just messing around, you know what I'm saying? But like, what I'm gonna do, get mad at Eli and fight Eli Manning, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I took it on the chin and I laughed about it. And I'm like, I didn't know though. Like, I didn't know he would do stuff like that. But like, if it was a DRC Jackrabbit, like, I'd be like, come on, bro. Like, it's because it's all fun and games, at the end of the day. But yeah, man, like, I think other people told me, like, offensively, because offensive defense, we're literally split. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really see this, like the Jets and the Sharks. You know what I mean? Like, you over there, we over here.
Did we just get a West Side Story reference?
We sure did. We sure did.
We got a West Side Story reference on this show.
We come together for the big dance. We do,
right.
But during the week, we adversaries. I'm trying to pick you off, Eli. In practice. I can't hit him, so the only thing I can do is catch. But so I heard stories of him being funny and him joking and being very lighthearted. And I think now you're just seeing it, and I love it. I love it. Anytime he's on every other commercial too now, boys.
Love it.
He's not just doing the funny stuff. He's doing serious commercials. He's doing all kind of stuff with his brother. And look, man, I love Eli. We love Eli. Like, I think, who doesn't love Eli? Maybe not Tom Brady, but I think everybody else. We all love.
We don't care what Tom Brady thinks.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew this, JC, but in his last start at MetLife against the Miami Dolphins, when Pat Shurmur was there, Shurmur would do it where he would give the boys off on, I think it was Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they're back at practice. So Eli, it was his last game. They gave him the game ball. I think the video is up online somewhere. And Eli goes, "No, it's a team win, and we'll see you guys on Thursday." All right, yeah. And all of a sudden, Shurmur goes, No availability on Wednesday. Eli already told the boys we're not practicing, so I guess we're not practicing this Wednesday.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. But man, look, man, there hasn't been too many people. Excuse me. There hasn't been anyone that has won consistently in New York. When you talk about these two New Jersey-based teams, not Buffalo. Buffalo's that's like Canada almost. That's not even.
It almost doesn't even count.
That's all the way up there. That's all.
We
the way
like
up
to
there.
apologize to our fans
To
in Buffalo
everybody in
who are
Buffalo.
watching it right now. JC loves you.
Sorry,
He'll
Buffalo.
still come up.
Sorry, Buffalo. But we're talking about the two New Jersey-based New York teams. We're talking about those two. Name a quarterback who has consistent success in New York besides Eli Manning.
No,
you can't do it.
Phil Simms.
There's not one exist. Mark Sanchez had 2 years, but that was because of a great defense and great coaching. And he was a manager. He didn't do too much. And when they asked him to do more, butt fumble. You know what I mean? Like, wasn't good. You know, so he's the only one that can win in either one of these franchises. And it's been a long time. But you know who resembles Eli? You know who talks like Eli? You know who kind of throws the ball like Eli? You know who kind of favors him? Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
He does.
I really think that's why they picked him, because he was a taller Eli Manning that could run. Yeah, right. And he's a guy that makes good decisions. He's a smart kid. He's a good football mind. He's steady Eddie, right? He is like even keel.
Steady Eddie. He's not here.
Right.
He's not here. Look at the other side of town down in Fairlawn. You look at Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's probably a lot more talented than Daniel Jones. Arm strength, ability to run, throwing ability, throwing angles. He did all of that stuff at what was that, BYU? He did all that stuff over there. Get in the league. What you got to be a man to play in this league. Daniel Jones is a man. Yeah. You see how he take those questions. The reason why New York media is the best, or whatever you want to put the pronoun, whatever pronoun you want to use for the media. They ask tough questions, really tough questions. That's what I noticed right away when I played for the Giants. I was like, man, the media, they some tough critics, man.
I have audio.
You, Randy, Jordan Renan, all you guys, y'all be asking tough questions, man.
I have audio of you sitting there doing a media session and you finishing the media session, sitting there saying, that wasn't that tough at all. You walking off the stage. I have the audio of you saying it back in the day.
To that too, huh?
For me, like, when you struggle, when your team's not good, that's when the tough questions are going to come. The tough questions don't come when you're winning games. The tough questions come when you're losing. When people are hurt, you didn't play well. The offense didn't play well. You got to speak on behalf of the defense. And Randy, I've been quoted terribly at times. I remember when I was playing in Tampa and they asked me, I think they asked me about the offense and how the offense didn't play well. And I was like, nobody played well. The offense didn't play well. I think I said defense first. Defense didn't play well. Special teams didn't play well. And the offense didn't play well. The title for that article, Casillas says offense doesn't play well. Come on, guys. What are we doing here?
Bastards.
So now that I'm a part of media now, Randy, thank you very much.
Belly of the beast.
My thing is that, me being a former player and me kind of understanding that, look, I don't want to be an a-hole when I'm asking questions. I do want to ask good questions, though, relevant questions.
Thoughtful
and
questions.
Sometimes those are the tough questions.
Yeah,
those are the tough questions. And Daniel Jones, just like Dayball don't miss a beat when he's talking to the media. Same thing like Daniel Jones. When Daniel Jones gets in any type of trouble in terms of like a question, he's like, I can't answer this truthfully. He just deflects all the time. And he does it so nonchalantly, no attitude, no waver in his voice. Like he's solid. And I feel like with those intangibles, how you handle the media, I feel like the type of man he is, the type of how he responds to stuff. And I feel like he's an adorable guy. That is a recipe for success here, because that's Eli Manning. That's what that is.
At the same time, though, and I agree with you 110%. But the thing at the same time, I would love to see Daniel Jones be comfortable enough to show us Daniel Jones. We've seen the football player. We know the man. We know the guy that's behind, that's wearing number 8. but I kind of want to see some fire out of the kid. I want to see some personality, right? I mean, you say Eli was a big joker, right? He has, every now and again you'd see him. He was just this kind of aw shucks kind of guy, but then he's got this whole other personality in the locker room, right? When he's playing jokes on people, he's comfortable enough to be himself. I want to see more of Daniel Jones. Like who is this guy, right? What makes this dude tick? And I wonder if seeing that in the locker room would also galvanize the team around him. Right. And honestly, I love seeing Brian. There's few things that I like more in this world. And I'm almost ashamed to be admitting this, but there are a few things that I like more in this world than watching Brian Dable fucking blow his stack on somebody on the sideline, right? Because he's just super like fired up about what's going on. There's some emotion behind that, right? Wink is totally composed. He's totally this. I think Dable tries to be that way throughout the course of the game, but there's sometimes when you just got to let that rage out, man. You got to let that fly to let everybody know that you give a shit, that there's something that you've got invested in this and that you care enough, that you want it enough to just get super fired up about it.
Yeah, you rather have a Dable than a Greg Popovich. You know what I mean? Like, because Pop will just sit there like this the whole entire time,
right,
and not show any type of emotion. JC, I got to ask a great question for you because you can give the other side of it, but I'll give you my answer. Do you think over those years, with the last maybe 5-7 years, that there was a more criticized and under the microscope giant than Eric Flowers?
Oof.
Because when he was here, man, you want to talk about a guy who, like, forget about the fact that he and Jordan Renan got into it in the locker room one time where he almost threw Renan across the locker room. I'm talking about, though.
He's a big boy, too.
He's a big boy. He's a big boy. But, man, like, I just remember every single move he made. There was a tweet. There was a question. And everybody just attacked the guy. And I don't know if you had that perspective of him when you were on the field, but he could have done 9 things right, and that 10th thing he would have gotten destroyed for 3.5 weeks.
Well, your play is what I think garners all of that attention, whether it's positive or negative, right? Daniel Jones, I don't think Eric Flowers is more criticized than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones I think he's been the most criticized since probably Eli Manning. And we're talking about Eli Manning's whole career. I'm talking about, And then after that, it might be Eric Flowers. But right now, Daniel Jones is going on his 5th year.
This is fourth year. This is fourth year.
And he's been highly criticized since they drafted him. Remember, when they drafted him, nobody wanted Daniel Jones. Everybody thought the Giants should have got Haskins. That's what everybody said, even me, because I didn't know who he was.
I didn't even want a quarterback. I wanted the defensive kid, Josh.
I didn't want a quarterback.
I know. I wanted Josh Allen to play defense, or from the defensive side of the ball that went down to Jackson.
Right. No, but remember him that early on. So, like I said about Daniel Jones and everything that he's been through, he's been the most criticized guy on the Giants.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look any different from the first day he took over. He doesn't look like he's stressed. I mean, and Ryan, you might be saying that might be the issue. That might be the issue, that he's not bothered. But I don't think so. I don't think you can be like this. And I think what we're seeing from him, I think that's him. Yeah. If the Giants beat the Commanders and he leads them down the field on a game-winning 4th quarter drive, and we don't see no emotion from him.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's him.
We saw it
guy,
once,
bro.
Maybe that is him. Yeah,
we saw it once. That first game against Tampa, when he
yelled at Michael Johnson.
Yeah, he was yelling. Yeah, like he's sitting there in that open,
and then he apologized for it like 2 hours later.
His debut game against Tampa, man. You saw they said in the huddle, he goes, "We're not losing this effing game." They came all the way back and they won by, I think it was like a point or 2. And but to your point, Ryan, I haven't seen it since.
Yeah,
he did it day one.
But, I mean, look, so it's interesting though, because it's like it's always a bit of a dichotomy, right? There's always a bit of 2 sides here, right? Do you want him to be super steady, super robotic, super nonchalant and being cool and being able to handle everything? Or do you want him to show his personality and maybe have some effect as well? But JC, to your point, maybe his personality is that he defines himself solely as a football player, and that's his mentality. That's who he is. That's how he is. Don't expect him to be a jokester. Don't expect him to be a prankster. Don't expect him to do all these other things, because that's just not who the guy is.
Don't expect him to be Eli Manning. That's
right.
Basic, and that's the toughest thing in the world when you have a guy who did it as good and as long as Eli Manning did. You're always going to get that comparison, and it's not fair. It's not fair at all. But
it's the New York Giants quarterback. I mean, you're always going to have 10 million eyes on you.
I compare the intangibles. You know, that's what I looked at. Like when I arrived in New York, and then I saw who our leader was in Eli Manning, and then, you know, just kind of watching them, you know, like for me, I'm not scared to be a follower. You know, a lot of people are like, I don't want to be a follower. Like, bro, if you're following the right people, eventually you're going to be a leader, you know? And when I was young in the league, you know who my leaders were? With Drew Brees, Jonathan Vilma, Roman Harper, Will Smith, Charles Grant. Like, I had some good guys to follow behind for a while, you know. Then I got to Tampa. I started developing into more of that leadership role, special teams guy. Tampa was a young team. Gerald McCoy was one of the leaders, but he was only in his second or third year. Levante David was in his second year, but he was one of the leaders. Darrell Revis was on that team. Deshaun Golson was on that team. Like, I was able to kind of see who the guys were, you know, early in my career, and then be like, okay, I see what they're doing to get them to where they're at as leaders. You know, the first meeting I was ever in, Sean Payton talked for 5 minutes, and Drew Brees took over the meeting. I was like, what? You know, I'm like 21 years old. I ain't never seen a player take over a meeting before. And I was like, oh, this is how the NFL is. But that's just the type of leadership and the capability and the trust that the organization had for a guy like that. Eli was that guy. I think Daniel Jones is capable of doing that. You know, I don't think he's as vocal as any of the guys that I just named, but you got to watch him play. You know, he doesn't get rattled. I've never seen him rattled, Randy. Never. In any of the games. Even when he kind of struggles, I've never seen him rattled. You know, I never seen him look like, man, he's rattled today. Haven't seen him. Haven't seen him do it.
This season, I haven't seen it. I've seen it in the past a little bit, especially with the plays that Ryan and I always talk about, is like when he fell in Philadelphia. I felt a little rattled. He felt a little rattled. But
did they win that game?
No, they
didn't win that game.
No, they lost that game.
But I'm not even
start. Go ahead.
How many goddamn times are we going to talk about that thing? It's like 3 plays. He's rattled on 3 plays, and all of a sudden he's the worst.
He was literally rattled last year when he went headfirst into Dallas when he concussed himself.
That's play number 2 of the 3. All right, come on, bring up the other one.
Nah, I'll save you on the third one, buddy. I'll save you on the third. But
for me, that's not bad though. When you can call up 3 plays. Specifically, meaning that those plays stood out to you compared to all the other games. Daniel Jones has played a lot of football in 5 years, in 4 years. He's played a lot of football, played well at times, has not played well at times. But when you look at their offense,
right. So imagine, and I did a little bit of an exercise this week, right? And I looked at his touchdowns to interception ratio. Right. And it's 3-1, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Right. Let's extrapolate that out. Let's say he did have a receiving crew that he could throw to consistently. Let's say they did throw the ball more often. And you're talking about some of the other heavier hitters in the league. Patrick Mahomes has a 3-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 33-11. Right. Josh Allen has a 3-1. So he is, for as little passing as they're doing, the passing that he is doing is on par and on caliber with some of the best players in the league. So, take that for what it's worth. I know it's not fantasy numbers, but
then you throw in his rushing ability as well. You throw that in there. You know, he has multiple rushing touchdowns this year. You know, and that's not all on just quarterback scrambles. Those are designed run plays for a quarterback, right? And then when you look, when I met with Kelvin Shepherd, I told you I had dinner with him a few weeks ago before the Lions played the Giants on that game. I looked at him. I told him, I said, hey, Daniel Jones is a lot faster than you think, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I said, he's tall,
big, strong guy.
He got a big arm, and he can roll.
He's accurate.
As I told him, he can roll.
And by the way, what other quarterback is doing the similar, who's able to do the similar things that Daniel's been doing? Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a lot of similarities there, but they said that Daniel's just as mentally tough. I spoke to Antonio Williams and a couple of the other guys who were in Buffalo in the past who's played with Josh Allen and play with Daniel, and they said a lot of the similarities, like we've already talked about. He's mentally tough. They said he's quite the leader in the locker room. He cares about his guys, obviously. They said obviously Josh has a little bit more exposure and has had a little bit more success than Daniel has. But it's,
you look at the weapons around.
Yeah.
You look at the weapons around Josh Allen.
Yeah, we don't have Stefon Diggs.
Diggs is one of the best receivers in the league. Year in and year out. They got a formidable deep threat in Gabe Davis, right? Singletary's been there for forever.
Yeah.
Knox has been having a good year at tight end.
And they just brought Beasley back.
Yeah, but they're right, Cole Beasley, right? Who he could be a problem. And their defense has always been ranked in the top 5 the whole time Josh Allen's been there.
Yep.
So look, I'm not saying I'm definitely not saying Daniel Jones is Josh Allen. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But when you have similarities to a quarterback who's Josh Allen's an elite quarterback, I think we'll all be on the same page about that. He's in the top 5 when you come to quarterbacks. Throw Mahomes in there and maybe Jalen Hurts. But even take Jalen Hurts out of there. Jalen Hurts hasn't been as consistent as Josh Allen has been, right?
All year, but yeah.
And I wish that the Giants can put a supporting cast like they did up there in Buffalo to see what Daniel Jones can actually do.
Yep.
And I think this year going into it, when you look at the roster, especially starting out the season at that wide receiver position, you look at Sterling healthy, you look at Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, you look at those guys from the beginning of the season, that's a pretty strong receiving crew on paper. Sterling goes down. Kadarius not happy. And Golladay forgot how to play football.
Yeah.
Robinson went down with injury.
Yeah.
And then Wandale, having him as a second-round draft pick and him not being available, coming back for, was it 2 games he came back for? And then now he's out.
Yeah.
So then you look at the who they have now, and it's just like, how could anybody win here?
And that I think is an amazing point for anybody that's still wanting to hate on Daniel Jones. I think that's one of the reasons why at the end of the season, I think they'll look back and they'll see that, look, once we're able to get this guy can get it done. And once we're able to put some players around him, we can then open up the system so that maybe he can be more than just a game manager. He has to be a game manager at this point because he doesn't have the weapons to be anything else. So once you put those parts around him, it's worth a 3-year deal with an option for a 4th. I'm going to say it now.
Not on max though. Can't give him a max.
No,
can't give him a max.
Can't give him a max.
I think it's gonna be
a team friendly deal.
That's right.
I think he'll
make it. I think he'll make a team friendly deal. Go ahead, Randy. Sorry.
I think it's gonna be 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option. That's what I really do think. And they're gonna say it's still an evaluation period.
Sure, of course.
I know.
But I mean, at some point they're gonna have to come up with a number, and we'll see.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to the question of also, after all this criticism, after all this time, does he still want to be in New York?
So that's a good question, but I honestly don't think he wants to be on another with another head coach, with another system. I think he's finally finding a little bit of comfort in a system, and he's finding one where he can utilize his talents when there's other players around him. So if they're able to make a commitment to him, hey, we're going to commit to you, we're going to commit to bringing in other players around you, I think that makes him happy enough to stay.
And the grass is not always greener.
Not always greener. That's for damn sure.
Especially in Indianapolis, where there's a lot of grass, ladies and gentlemen.
But you can ask Russell Wilson that.
Oh man! Well, not only that, but how funny would that be? Though, let's say he decided to actually make that decision. He goes from playing in Eli Manning's house to playing in Peyton Manning's house. So that would be very, very, very odd. All right, let's do some predictions.
Yeah.
Let's go. We're gonna start with Ryan today. Let's go with your prediction for Sunday night, man. It's the game. Giants fans,
it's the game.
This is the game of the season right now.
Big one, boys.
What do you got?
A lot of my predictions have been around the same numbers, early 20s, that kind of thing. I really do believe we can win this game. I really do believe that they have the heart. I think they have the drive. I think they have the desire. I think they're going to come to play. They know they need this win. And I think they like playing on the road, JC, just as much as you did. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a close match. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring match. I'm looking somewhere around 21-17 Giants.
JC?
That would have been, that's about the numbers I was thinking too. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. Both of these teams love to run the football. It's going to be a quick game. I don't think it's going to be a long game unless they go to overtime again.
Ugh.
Please don't go to overtime.
Especially on Sunday night. Don't do that on a Sunday night.
But Randy, I'm working the game. I'm doing post game.
Oh, yeah.
Please don't go over. I want to go home at a decent time. Okay. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I was going to say 20-17 Giants. I think, look, I'm a realist, a little bit of an optimist in there, sprinkle a little bit of optimism in there, but I'm a realist. I think the Giants can win this game. More importantly, the Giants have to win this game. So I'm going to put it in the air. Giants win 20-17.
I'm going to go with you guys on this one. The Giants need it. They want it. And
Commanders
I think
need it too, but yeah.
I think, you look at their offense. If you want to find a team that's, I think, a little bit, we have a little bit more talent from an offensive side. We have a little bit more than they do. And I think that has to be exploited out. And I think I'm going 21-18. I go 21-18, and it's gonna be a close game. And for Giants fans, I hope everybody's watching Sunday night, and they also want to follow me. I'm going to put the link up. I blog throughout the whole entire game now. I blogged it the last 2 weeks, and we've had a lot of fun with it, having Giants fans chat with me throughout the whole entire game. My favorite comment is people have Twitter muscles, and they're always willing to flex those Twitter muscles. No legitimacy to what they're saying. They'll say Daniel Jones is trash. I'm like, okay, why is Daniel Jones trash?
Right.
Let's see what your reasoning is. And all of a sudden you see, oh, so-and-so has signed up. I was like, that's right, bitch. Walk away.
Walk away. That's right.
I call you right out. All right, so those are our predictions. Here, follow the show, of course, backsportspage.com. Jonathan Casillas is on Instagram and Twitter. And Ryan Darlington is over with us over at Back Sports Page. And guys, it is my birthday weekend. I am counting backwards. So you're at that point now where you just don't look forward to getting older. And
you don't look 62. I mean, I'll tell you that.
Happy born day, Randy.
Thank you, brother. It is on Saturday. I want to let you all know that you can't see as much gray as that is actually there, but we call this side Mason, we call this side Aaron, these three little hairs right there. That's Brett. That's what we call.
Real quick before we sign off, I left the locker room. Excuse me, I left the facility today at the same time when the players were coming in to the locker room, and I was walking. I was like, man, I feel like I'm one of the guys again. I felt a little smack in the back of my head. Landon Collins.
I knew it.
LC. What's up, bro? What's going on? Starts talking to him. Landon's up this weekend, boys.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Sure. At least that's what he told. You got to think he's going to be looking forward to playing the Commanders.
Absolutely.
Well, I was thinking about that before. I'm hoping to get over there tomorrow and talk with him. But wouldn't it make sense for a guy who knows Juan Rivera's schemes to be on the field? That makes a lot of sense to me. Put him right in there.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping for a huge game out of him, man. Not just for the Giants, but for him.
Yep.
I love Landon. Me and Landon play some great football together. And if you watch us play when we were playing in 16 and 17, I was on the weak side and Landon was always right next to me. Mm-hmm. So we played a lot of plays, we made a lot of tackles together. We caused some havoc. And I just wish that, he can, maybe settle down here in New York one more time, and maybe finish his career here, retire as a Giant.
Yeah,
that'll be pretty dope. And I think it starts this weekend. And if he can have a hell of a game against the Commanders and will this team in for a W, man, look, he could be a made man, just like Daniel Jones.
Go a long way.
And not only that hopefully that can carry over the next weekend as well as the Minnesota Vikings. As we look forward to that, because that's going to be another tough game. But having a veteran guy like Landon out there can certainly help raise the level of defense.
I know you already said to sign off. Next week is a little different because they play on Saturday.
Right.
Are we gonna go on Thursday again? How are we gonna do it?
How about this? Why don't we go?
I want you to tell everybody. You got to tell everybody. Not just us.
I think
You got to tell everybody.
I have an idea. I have an idea, and it's a crazy idea. Why don't we go live next week?
Okay.
We can go live. Let's go live next week. We can go We'll go right at it. We can broadcast live.
What day?
We can even go Thursday because it'll be live. It'll be out there.
And can we do it through Zoom? Or
I can use our other program.
Okay. All right.
Well. We'll have fun. We'll have fun with it.
I'm for it. I'm all for it. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. So we'll be live next Thursday night.
There you go.
Big Blue Report. Ryan Darlington, Jonathan Casillas. I'm Randy Zellea from Back Sports Page. We'll see you live and in living color next week, baby.